I'm Keith Bergman, and today in the War Room, we're checking out Moonbright Tower. So picture the scene. It's 1983, and you just went out and bought yourself a TI-99 4A home computer with the works, the expansion box, the disk drives, the extra memory, extended basic, everything. And you're really into text adventure games. And you decide, I'm going to try to write one myself. So you spend the year working on this game and coming up with a concept and putting everything together and teaching yourself to code, and you do it. You come up with a game, and it's pretty good, and you're ready to go. And you start a company, you start a whole thing, you trademark the name, then you put your game out, Moonbright Tower. And you start your company, Syncadea Software, and you take out some ads in magazines like 99er and Compute Magazine, some ads in the big popular magazines of the day. And right on the eve of the release of your game, Texas Instruments pulls the plug on the whole computer system. Discontinues it, sends it all to the fire sale. You're dead in the water. Nothing to be done. And your company and your game just disappear from history. That's what happened with Syncadea Software and the game Moonbright Tower. Nobody had brought these files into the modern day. They weren't available on any of the FTP sites or in any of the archives. For all intents and purposes, Moonbright Tower was a lost game. Fast forward to a couple years ago. I bought a TI system from a family in the Chicago area. They were liquidating a parent's estate, and they had some original Infocom games, which I like to collect. So I bought the whole lot just to get the Infocom games, basically. But they had the expansion box, all the cards, a bunch of discs and random stuff. And in a random pile of discs in this lot of stuff I bought, I found this guy right here. Moonbright Tower, floppy disk. I popped it in, I fired everything up, it actually worked. Moonbright Tower was found. Now, these files, there were 11 programs on this disk, written in extended basic, and you didn't need the memory expansion card, but you did need a disk drive. So probably not very many copies of this got sold back in the day. It's conceivable this was the last one floating around that still worked. I don't know. But I was able to get the 11 programs off of this disk onto my computer, transfer them over to my emulator on my PC, and get them out on the internet where they now are freely accessible to the community. So what's Moonbright Tower all about?
Moonbright Tower is a classic text adventure in the vein of Zork or Scott Adams' Adventure International games. The tower in question is an ancient stronghold built by the evil archmage Garowolf, and it's been standing for centuries just waiting for you to come along and plunder its riches. Now, if you're looking for the depth of an Infocom game or even a simpler adventure like the Scott Adams titles, you might be let down. Moonbright Tower's 11 pieces of code mean that it gets around the computer's limited memory, and there's more room for text, which does add a good bit of atmosphere, but the gameplay itself is pretty primitive. In a lot of places, there are verbose descriptions that lead to only one path forward. You're not so much exploring a map or making decisions as you are being led along to the next part of the story. And when you do get into the tower, there's a lot of walking from room to room, picking up random treasures, and fighting monsters with different names but no discernible differences in combat. Both the treasures and the combat routines leave a little to be desired. When you see a bad guy, you just type the word fight. The computer tells you if you hit or miss, and if they hit or miss you, and then you can attack again or try to run away. You have one sword issued at the beginning of the game, and there's never any indication of your health, hit points, or how badly you're wounding your opponent. Similarly, when treasure appears, you type take and the name of the treasure, and then nothing really happens. It's still there in front of you, but you can't take it again. You gain score, and it's in your inventory, but when you enter a new level, all your treasure disappears. There doesn't seem to be anything else to pick up, and you never run out of capacity to carry these treasures, at least for the length of time you're allowed to have them, so it's not very satisfying. I quickly found myself ignoring the treasure and just focusing on mapping the levels, with the minor annoyance of random fights every now and then getting in the way. Like the treasures and monsters, rooms have descriptive names that don't seem to mean anything, at least in the levels I traversed, and items randomly appear, sometimes in a room you already passed through once before. In at least 2 places on the second level, I was on a ledge over a chasm and on a sky bridge, and trying to jump led to an error that broke the program. While on level 3, jumping into a pit turned out to be exactly the right thing to do. Magic exists in the game, consisting of some words you discover at various places that can be said at the right times to change up the story, and the documentation hints at a fierce dragon, a place called the Nether Plains, and a final battle with Geralt himself at the end. But after I dove into the pit on level 3, I found myself in that albatross of early text adventures, a maze. And that, my friends, is where I tapped out. At least for now.
Now, given the structure of the program with the 11 freestanding pieces of code, it would be pretty easy to just load each one individually and see how to get past the maze and maybe find the Nether Plains or the dragon or even the big final confrontation with Geralt himself. But I think in 2024, I'm more interested in just seeing how this thing worked and seeing where it failed and seeing the noble attempt that it was than actually trying to solve the game. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad we saved it from obscurity, and maybe one of these days I'll go back. I don't know. If you'd like to take a crack at it in your emulator or download it for hardware, you can find the zip file at orphantech.com under the reviews section. You can also find it at the AtariAge.com forums under the TI-99-4A section. And if you do that, leave a note in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the game, or let me know how far you got. Send us some screenshots. Who knows, maybe you will be the one to defeat the mighty Geralt. And we will see you next week here in the War Room.